Hi everybody, Chris Titley here and welcome to Scoreboard.
This episode is powered by Swyftx, Australia's top-rated crypto exchange and proudly homegrown, just like many of the athletes and business leaders we feature on Scoreboard.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here. On today's episode of Scoreboard, I'm joined by Danielle Mansell, Vice President, Service and Fan Experience at the Dallas Mavericks. Danielle, welcome to Scoreboard.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Danielle, we're sitting here on Thursday, the 24th of July here in Australia, but Wednesday, the 23rd of July, where you are right now. But I want to talk about a little trip that you had recently to Australia. The Dallas Mavericks came down under. Do you want to talk about your trip, Danielle?
I have been in connection with Ryan over at RDK for the last 5 years. We actually met during the pandemic. And so I've spoken a couple times at the conference that he hosts out there in Gold Coast. And he was like, hey, you want to come? You're going to come. And finally, this year, kind of the stars aligned and it made sense for us to come. And so the Mansells packed up, my husband and my two kids, and we made the trip. Direct flight from Dallas to Sydney, which is really nice. But we spent almost 3 weeks there in Australia and loved it. Incredible. Like, I think I'm annoying people here around me talking about how fantastic Australia is. I think here in the States, it's always like, oh, you've gone to Australia, that's so far away. And it is, obviously. It's like a 15-hour flight from here. But everyone was so hospitable and kind and welcoming. And we had great food. Of course, the home of Bluey. If you've got little kids, like, Australia is all things Bluey to my family. So
Brisbane, where we are right now, the home of Bluey. Yep.
Right. I think the first car we got in when we landed in Sydney was a wonderful, like, little older lady that was driving, and she turned and made sure the kids were buckled, and their eyes got super big and like, oh my gosh, it's Bluey's mom. I'm like, no, that's just Australia. Like, that's just how everyone sounds here. And so that was like a really funny to see, like, a 4 and 7-year-old, their eyes just kind of get really big and start to see them connect the pieces of being in Australia and getting to experience that. So incredible. You guys were so welcoming. We can't wait to come back.
No, brilliant. Yeah, just on the Bluey story, I'm showing my age here. The Bluey's dad, Dave McCormack, used to be a singer in a band called Custard here in Brisbane. And everyone used to, during my youth, we would listen to some Custard songs. And now he's Bluey's dad's voice. And we're like, oh, yeah, and you play the songs back to the kids. They're like, that's Bluey's dad. I'm like, yeah, he's much more famous now from his sort of indie band that he had, craft band back in the days. But there you go, a Bluey, a worldwide sensation now. What did you do in Australia? Why did you come here?
So we flew into Sydney and we did, I think we were there 5 or 6 days in Sydney. And I feel like we did all of the things, right? We did the Taronga Zoo and we did the Blue Mountains and Manly Beach. Oh my gosh, completely fell in love with Manly Beach. We went to Bondi and did the iceberg. I think obviously it's winter there, very, very much summer here. It's incredibly hot. But so we probably looked like the crazy tourists, right? They were like, let's go do the iceberg. And it was chilly. But we loved it. It was a very cool experience. And then we went up and stayed in Brisbane, and we did Brisbane and Gold Coast for a couple of days and went and saw Bluey's house. Of course, you have to do that. And then, I feel like we kind of went everywhere. Went to Dream World, which was, roller coasters and all the fun and excitement. And then kind of wrapped up our very small tour, because I had no idea how big Australia was until we started planning all of this, but then spent a week in Melbourne and really enjoyed the food scene. Was incredible. Oh my gosh. I think we ate so much food while we were there, but did all of the typical sightseeing, but really enjoyed kind of slowing down and getting to spend some good time together as a family. And I felt like that was one of the things I thought was super interesting, the amount of, like, parks and open spaces. Like, you guys spend so much more time, I think, outside than we do. And it was very enjoyable. So, and then got to tour the Melbourne cricket grounds, which was incredible.
The G.
So, saw a couple of AFL games.
Oh, right. Okay. Let's get your take on AFL.
I'm surprised no one wears pads and helmets. I couldn't get past that for the first game. We watched the Gold Coast Suns. I'm not going to remember who we played, but we learned the Gold Coast song. We got jerseys. We did the whole thing. But it was really, really cool. I think from an American perspective, it was definitely felt more like European soccer than like traditional American football as far as the crowd and the engagement. But I mean, in Gold Coast, and then especially going to Melbourne cricket grounds, the fan experience and the way that you get into the arena and all the different activations and all the things they do for the fans there was really, really cool. definitely something I think I think I drove my family crazy, being like, okay, wait, we need to check out one more thing before we go to our seats. But everything was really well done. You guys have
Yes,
quite the
I see
show.
your plan here. Your plan was to do work and make it a tax trip and everything, right? Yeah, right. I get it. Yep, I understand. Like, let's go to Australia
Listen,
and watch some football so we can look about fan activation because that's my job.
lots of work to be done. But no,
Yeah,
it was very cool, very well done. I took a lot of really good things back from your experience, of like our whole experience at some
awesome, brilliant.
fantastic
Now, you are
stadiums.
the vice president, service and fan experience at the Dallas Mavericks. Do you want to unpack that a little bit about what you do? And again, like you're always working when you go to AFL games and whatnot, and going, what's
Yeah.
going on here? What do you do?
So I always kind of joke, our job is to keep people happy, right? We can't always control the on-court performance. So we really try to focus on the fan experience from the season ticket member standpoint of how are we interacting with them outside of the game. So we work on, like right now we're off season, very much off season. We don't even have our schedule yet for next season. But we spend a lot of time trying to get in front of our season ticket members and really grow impactful relationships with them, because at the end of the day, especially through COVID, I think we all saw that more live than ever before. Your relationship with your fans is really how you retained a lot of those people, right? Like we couldn't talk about sports because it wasn't happening. We couldn't go to games because they weren't happening. And so being able to call and have real conversations with season ticket members was, I kind of, that's it's kind of our bread and butter during COVID. And so my team, we got a team of 14 that take care of our season ticket members here in Dallas. And our job is to make sure that we're taking care of all the things. We kind of call it the driveway to driveway experience, right? From the moment you leave to come to a game, how are we taking care of you, making sure you have a great experience, making sure you get home safely, and hopefully having a really great time in between. So some days it's easier than others, right? When we don't have crazy trades or anything like that going on. But we really do enjoy getting to be kind of the face of the organization to our season ticket members.
How many season ticket members are there for the Dallas Mavericks?
Got about 6,000.
Okay.
So we've
What's the
got a
arena?
lot of
How
people.
many does the arena hold?
Our arena holds about 20. So we have an interesting model for the Dallas Mavericks, which actually it's kind of unique, I think, to basketball. Very actually much more in keeping with European soccer, that we consider a season ticket member anyone that has any kind of a plan with us. So a mini plan is 10 games, half season, 20 games, and then a full season. We consider all of those to be season ticket members. So if you have a 10-game plan, you have a season ticket member rep. If you have a full season, you have you could have the exact same rep. So a lot of teams only consider members to be people that have full or halves. We feel like any commitment, time wise or financially, obviously, is really impactful to us as an organization. So we make sure we take care of them as best we can.
Is there also an overlap between some major sponsors that get the members and et cetera as well? Do you deal with them, or is that completely separate?
Completely separate. So sponsorship, obviously we have sponsor accounts that will have tickets in their sponsorship packages. And so we get to have some great conversations with them, invite them to some really cool events too. But for the most part, if it's wrapped into their sponsorship package, they are going to deal with the sponsorship activation team on a lot of their stuff. So we do our best to incorporate them into everything that we can, but they usually have a whole other list of things that we work through with them.
And the $1 million question: what makes successful fan engagement?
I think it's just being authentic, right? It's having real conversation. I think if I only called you when it was time to renew your tickets and I said, hey, Chris, you coming back? Yes or no? We don't have a real relationship. But if I'm calling, I'm asking how the kids are, where you guys went, where you're planning for your summer or travel. We're talking about holidays, we're talking about the dog, right? Like all of those little things that add up to an authentic relationship, I think is really the difference between taking care of tickets and taking care of members. And that's really what we try to focus on, is having an actual relationship with our season ticket members and making sure that, yes, I want you to renew, but if at the end of the day, you and I have had, multiple conversations and, the kids are now getting involved in their own sports and your time and attention have been turned to other things, instead of me being adamant that you renew your current season at full season, right? Every game. If you and I have an actual relationship, the conversation is, hey, Chris, like, let's put you in a mini plan. Let's get you some really great seats for 10 games and make sure it's stuff, seats that you guys actually get to use versus it now being a burden as kind of your time and attention have changed over the years. And so we want to make sure we're having good conversation with everybody to put them in the best possible product so that we have a real positive relationship, whether they stay on or not. but want to make sure that we kind of keep those lines of communication open.
Danielle, you bring up an interesting point about age and evolution, et cetera, of families and requirements, et cetera. How do you balance that into the game and the activation, I suppose? Because we talked about Bluey before, and my kids were big on Bluey, but they're a bit older now, so they're not.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you're attracting some audience, but then you have to attract others, then you have to attract the billionaires, et cetera. How do you balance all that?
You know what? I love that question, Chris, because it's something that we spend a lot of time and attention on here. We feel like, and obviously there's a million different ways to slice the pie on it, but for the most part, when you talk about season ticket members, they're going to fall into one of three buckets. Again, everybody has their different kind of take on it, but usually they're a business account, right? You're bringing your biggest client, you're giving them to people that you work with, whatever your business account, you're there for like the business networking and that kind of thing, and the ROI on the back end. You're a family, you're bringing your kids, that's the time you spend with your spouse, that's the time you spend with, friends and family, that kind of thing. Or you're a huge fan, right? You are there because you know the stats, you know the players, you know who matches up with who and why it's a good game, whatever, right? And I think what we try to focus on is knowing what your intention is, right? If you're coming to the game, you're coming because you're bringing your kids. And so we know that it's going to be a big deal for you to be invited to family events, things that you can kind of dazzle your kids with, right? Like you want to be the cool dad with the tickets. What can we give you access to that's going to kind of foster that growth? But that's going to shift. And so we're constantly checking with people. Like maybe now you aren't bringing kids because they're getting older. So now maybe it is more of a business expense for you. And so making sure that now we're inviting you to that business networking event to connect you with other like-minded business professionals, right? So it's a constant check-in, and our relationships and conversations are always evolving with our season ticket members. Conversation we have this year shouldn't be the exact same conversation I have with you next July. Like, oh, hey, how was this? Like, I'm checking the box, right? Like I called this year for it. And so that's why I think, and again, personal preference, I think even as you bring AI into the conversation and we get smarter about how we're tracking and metrics and stuff like that, the personal human component is never going to go away, because that's what makes us a reason for you to answer the phone, like a reason to continue spending money with us. So I think that's the important part of what we do, is that fan interaction every day. And that's what our staff is here full time. So even though we're out of season, it's not like, oh yeah, we take off 3 months and we come back later. It's like, no, we're in it. We're here. We're calling. We're making sure we're checking in on people, even though we're very out of season right now.
I was having a chat to Stuart Randall, who runs the content division for ESPN here in Australia, and he was talking about the NBA and how they're quite unique in regards to being 365, that you've just finished the Game 7 or Game 6 or whatever it went to in terms of the NBA Finals. Then you go straight into the draft. Then you go into the G League, the Summer League, which is happening right now, and you've got Australians representing the Summer Leagues, and people are like, oh, number 36, how's Rocco going? All these sort of things. And it's like the NBA has got it right. They've got a 365 thing versus other sports. And you just mentioned that you're working all the time. How do you keep that connection during the off season to make sure you people are, ready for the new season, or maybe going to a summer league game, or maybe seeing who the new draft pick is, et cetera, particularly relevant for Dallas this year, of course.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, Chris, is every year is different, right? So last year, we went to the NBA Finals. We played the Celtics. Obviously, didn't quite get the outcome that we wanted, but we had a fantastic run. It was really great to watch everybody kind of come together to root on the Mavericks here in Dallas. Now this postseason, so last season we wrapped up, went into postseason. We didn't do a whole lot around the draft at all, right? It was a very different draft season for us. This year, if you followed the Mavs, we made some staff changes here that caused some fun ripples in Dallas. And so going from that and the upward swing to then having number one draft pick, which was just like crazy, 1.8% chance we were going to get it.
That's right, 1 in 100 almost, yeah.
Yeah, so to have the number one draft pick, obviously we went from literally hardly doing anything around draft last year to this year doing a massive draft watch party. I was actually in Australia. I got to watch that. I was like streaming it on my phone in the car. But like watching that, right? Like every year is different. We take into account, right? So last year we finished, everyone needs to take like a big deep breath, right? And get ready for next season. And so we pause a little bit internally. We encourage everybody to take a little bit of time to like breathe and kind of realign. But then we jump right into we do like what we call micro events during the summer, which are smaller events for season ticket members. So we jumped into that, but every year is different. The cadence on how we push out that stuff. Like, yes, we did a draft party. Yes, we did a bunch around Summer League because obviously this was the first time we saw Cooper at Summer League. Like, that just changes. We now are getting ready for preseason and launching the schedule. We should have the schedule here in the next couple of weeks. So it's just every year it changes. It's a lot of all of us getting in a room and saying, okay, what's important the next 2 months? Like, what are we focusing on? We've got an incredible marketing team here that just runs like at the speed these guys function at is insane, but they're just constantly going and keeping us all very plugged in, which is nice.
I've got a couple of questions on that. One is you've got the league and their content and their strategy and what they do. Then you've got the team and what your marketing team that you talked about and you've described. And then you've got the players and their social accounts, etc., and the engagement that the people have directly. So people are directing traffic to the league, to the team, to the player, etc. There's a deep connection somewhere, obviously. How important is it to get all three together working in unison, I suppose, to activate the fan engagement?
It's really important and also really challenging too, right? I think when you talk about fan engagement 10 years ago, you were talking about a totally different mindset around how we were showcasing the players, what media day looked like, right? Which is the day that we bring everybody in to like see firsthand what the team looks like. That's where they're doing like all the creative and the pictures and all the stuff we're going to use throughout the season. 10 years ago, that was a totally different thing than now. They're doing these content pieces that they're going to run months out and all that stuff. It's a lot. There's a ton of moving pieces. That's why, hats off. Like, our marketing team, like I said, runs at a crazy level because there are so many more pieces now than there used to be. We can only control what we can control, right? We try really, really hard to talk about that internally. Like, we're not going to lose sleep over the things that we don't have control over. The NBA does a really, really good job of making sure that they over communicate. I was just on a call with them, and the NBA does an incredible job of over communicating what other teams are doing. So we aren't all trying to reinvent the wheel every season. You go, oh, hey, the Denver Nuggets have a great program for this, this, and this. So we'll jump on the phone with them. We'll ask them questions, and we steal ideas from each other daily, in the most positive way, right? Like, hey, you guys did a great job on that. How'd you do it? And they kind of give us the secret sauce, and then we all talk through it and take what you can from other teams. So that, I've been with other leagues. I've never seen another league operate quite like the NBA does as far as information sharing and being really smart about how we're engaging other teams and some of the same, we're all kind of dealing with the same problems. So that part's really cool. And again, I don't think anybody else does it quite like they do.
And the show business element, like this night, Steph Curry 5 years ago wasn't around. You've got people doing things when they off the field, a traditional this, and the fashion that comes into the NBA. It's all
Oh my gosh.
taken, etc. Like, you have to study these trends, I suppose, to make it a little bit more engaging because people are up to speed with what's happening off the court and on the court, right?
Yeah, I think my social media feed is hilarious at this point. Like, the amount of stuff you get from, again, not only the player, right, directly from whoever your favorite player is, but now all the brands that they're tied to, and it's starting so young here, right now with our NIL deals. You've got Cooper Flag coming in; he already has massive deals behind him, and so it's like we're already being served content of these players long before they're putting our jerseys on, which is a really interesting. It's an interesting kind of new space for everybody, I think, because I think there's lots to navigate there. But I don't see NIL stuff slowing down anytime soon. I think it'll continue to get bigger and kind of more wild. But again, it's because it's the content we're all eating up, right? Like, who doesn't want to know more about your favorite player? So it's very cool.
And talking about the favourite player, we need to talk about the Luka trade, but then the Cooper Flag thing as well, like the roundabouts and swings, and as you mentioned, the highs and the lows. But obviously, it means a lot in terms of fan engagement and means your job, etc., and also the performance off the court, which you mentioned as well. Like, you're here for people, not just necessarily the players on the court, but winning helps. But how do you kind of
It,
smooth it if things don't go your way?
I laugh. I think I've said this for years. The beer is colder and the hot dog tastes better when we're winning, right? But we can't control that. So from my team, obviously, elephant in the room, we had the big Luka trade. That was not like a small thing here in Dallas. My team was a lot of the front lines of that, right? They're the ones taking the calls from the season ticket members. We're getting the emails, the texts, all of that stuff. And it's really easy to get caught up in all of it. And I would be lying if I didn't say I got the text about midnight that the trade was going through Same time as everybody else, by the way. No secret text message here. I got the same information everybody else did when ESPN reported it, and your heart kind of stops a little bit, and you go, "Oh, tomorrow's going to be a wild day," right? I messaged my staff at like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, which I never do, but I just said, "We're not replying to anything, right? Like we need to make sure that we're all in the same room when we're talking through kind of what's happening." And it was a lot of kind of getting prepared for Monday. And at the end of the day, we can't control what happens on the court. So we have to go into friend mode, right? Like, hey, Chris, like, I hear you. Like, we knew and you knew, right? Because everyone thought there was some, what did you know kind of thing. But our job was to kind of therapy, right? Like, we understand, like, let's talk through it. How are you feeling? Where are you at? And it was tough, right? It was tough for our staff. It was tough for our staff as a whole, right? Like we're attached to these players too. It was tough for my team in particular from the service standpoint because we do have relationships with our season ticket members. So when Chris, the season ticket member, is calling me and you're yelling and just frantic, that impacts my team. I mean, like, listen, there were plenty of times over the week after the trade. I said, everybody get up, stop answering your phones. Like, let's step away from our desk. Let's go for a walk. Let's get away from it. But because we can't control what happens on the court, we had to focus on the conversations and how we were handling our season ticket members and trying to provide the best possible solutions for them. So it was rough. I think the interesting part of that whole trade was we went from the kind of, I won't call it a low, but like where we were post the trade to this giant swing to a first round draft pick, which usually I've been in sports for 16 or 17 years now. It's been a little while. Usually when you have a team go through that swing, right, it's years in between like a maybe not your highest point and like this like super high. And my team had like whiplash when we saw it in the course of like 3 months. But I was excited for them because it was nice for them to get those calls of we're so excited. You're like, yeah, I know. Like I told you, stick it out. Like stay with us. And it's an interesting ride when you talk about like the business side of sports. Answering the phone isn't always the easiest job.
Yeah, I was going to say there must be maybe some more negative phone calls than positive because if it's positive, you're doing your job, right?
We had some pretty negative phone calls, but we also goes back to the relationships we had. We had season ticket members calling the reps and just saying like, "Hey, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. Like,
Oh,
how
that's
are
nice.
you?"
Isn't it? That's kind.
So, I mean, we are friends, right? Like we do have relationships, and so yes, we had plenty of negative inbound, but we also had people literally just calling just to check on us, like, "Hey, how are you?" I mean, I had other teams reaching out to me, like, "Hey, how you guys holding up? You good?" I'm like, "We're good. We're fine. We're gonna make it." So there is definitely some friendships forged through all of that.
And you're
It's like
excited
the
about.
best and worst part of sports, right? The passion.
I was going to say, yeah, because you feel it, right? It's because you care, right? So if you win, you
Yeah.
lose, there's passion. Sometimes you don't have passion for things you don't, broadly speaking, care about. I'm just going to ask, are you excited about Cooper this year? Are you excited about getting the number one draft pick into Dallas and all the stuff that goes with it?
I'm very excited. I think from everything we've seen, obviously he did fantastic at summer league. I think it's going to be a fun year. I think he's going to be exciting to watch. I think anytime you have a player that's new, that's got a lot of buzz, I think it's a really good mix of excitement and just like pure nerves. You want to make sure that they're taken care of and they're happy and all that stuff. So I'm excited for him to be here. I hope that we're a good city for him and that he has a good experience with us.
Excellent. Now we're talking about trends and different and entertainment and showcase and people and whatnot. We've got and from Australia we don't really know much about the Savannah Bananas, but it's kind of taking a little bit of media in a little bit of social media feeds. I'm curious to know, fan first, what you're thinking of them. I suppose as a bit of a different, obviously different sport, but sort of like what they're doing and watching from afar, maybe.
I love them. I actually had the opportunity to see the Savannah Bananas in Boston when we were up there for the playoffs at Fenway Park, which is iconic, anyways, right? That's like I equate it to like maybe being like at MCG, right? It's just like this iconic space. So to see the Savannah Bananas there was cool, anyways. But what they're doing as far as fan engagement and getting in front of people, and if you're a baseball purist, right, like it needs to be 9 innings and there needs to be, the score needs to be 1-0 and it's an incredible game kind of, which I get. Great. If you are going, like for me in this stage of my life, I'm going with two young ones and we want them to be engaged and have fun and it needs to be very experiential for them. It's incredible what they're doing. I mean, they're changing the way people are thinking about timeouts and half times and all the different ways that you can engage people in their seats. The music they're playing, like just literally everything start to finish is incredible. Their merch line, when I saw them in Boston, it was like a 2 hour wait to get to the merch, like to buy just like a t-shirt. I was like, I'm going to order that online. But people were literally waiting just to buy a t-shirt, a bright yellow, very obnoxious t-shirt. And I was like, that's incredible. They're selling out night after night in these massive stadiums that are not even built for baseball. And it kind of goes to show if it's something that's fun and interactive, you're going to get people way more engaged and involved than, I mean,
Yeah, I was just
anything
on
else.
that topic of involvement. Like, obviously, you got these things, the mobile phones, but then there's also this sort of like, you don't want to get these kids on the mobile phones too early, and then like QR codes on the big screen is like, Dad or Mum, get your QR thing, but then you'd also want people snapping at the game, saying this is the best time ever, and sharing it with their friends. How do you kind of balance all that?
I feel like I'm seeing we're having the same struggle that probably you're having at home with your kids, right? Like there is a positive side to it, right? The connection, the engagement, that part of it. And the fact that you literally, the metrics and numbers you can get from people, to your point, snapping the QR code and voting on the next song and all that stuff is like hard numbers. And at the end of the day, like that's what you need to sell the business is the numbers. But at the same time, when someone dunks on somebody and it's this incredible moment and they missed it because everyone was like trying to pick out the next song at halftime, like it's a miss. So I think we're seeing it the same way everyone else is the constant struggle of, you and I are talking and we literally have them off to the side, right? Like it's just always there. I think there is a fine line between getting people engaged that way, but also trying to create a moment. Like we want them to come take the picture, and you can only take the picture because you're at a game and you're posting it because you're a member, and we invited you to something you didn't have access to any other way. Those are the things you want people posting. At the same time, you go, well, how do you create something like that where we're saying get your phone out right this second, now put it away, now get your phone back out, put it away.
Well, just watch the game for a second.
Yeah,
Everyone watch the game.
it's a total struggle. I think that will be, we had a couple people, was it this season? Come, they're wearing like the big Apple glasses,
Oh yes,
the
the goggles things. Yep, not the goggles, but yeah.
sitting courtside, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like is that where we're headed? I don't know. I don't know that anyone's ready for that part of it, but you go, okay, well, there's the next thing that we may or may not be seeing in sports. So
Yeah, I remember a few years ago they had the VR. There was like, I think it was the Golden State Warriors tested out the VR membership or something, so you could actually sit courtside in your home but have the VR.
which is
Like,
insane.
and I was like, oh wow, that's interesting, and whatnot. I'm also curious about all the data that you get from your members, and then you've got things like people's birthdays. You've got people maybe getting engaged or getting married or on a
Yeah.
honeymoon or a holiday or from Australia, etc. How do you keep abreast of all of it? And what do you do to kind of go, well, this works, this doesn't, and the test and learn, I suppose.
When it's funny you bring that up, I'm literally in the thick of that right now with a couple of different things we're trying to figure out next steps on. But it's a fine, and this is just personal preference. It's a fine line, right, between being really engaged, like happy birthday, today, whatever, and being like, hey, I know where you get your hot dog every game, right? Like you have the information because it's there, right? You scan the same card, like the information's all there. I don't think I'm saying anything that's like crazy out of line, right? We're not like if you have been to or seen obviously all the articles about the Clippers' new arena, right? It's super tech heavy, and that's a whole other level of like just next level tech engagement, which is super cool. We're not there by any means, but I mean, granted, we know a lot about our fans and season ticket members. It's how do we make sure that we're sending them and engaging with them with things that we know they're going to find value in, and not just spamming them, right? Like, hey, we know your addresses, right? Because you gave that to us when you bought your tickets. Hey, we know that you just got hit by a storm. Like, there's a certain amount of like, how do we
You ate
reach out
three
to them?
hot
Like, hey,
dogs
we're
on
making sure
Friday
you're
night.
good.
Slow it down.
Yeah, yeah. It's like there's a certain amount of like, how do you authentically? Hey, we were checking to make sure you're okay, and there's a lot of, I feel like, gray area there about like how do you respectfully engage with people without being weird about it, and it's
Yeah.
tough. It's
Mm.
that's a tough one because there is just so much information there.
What about the communication channels that you use? Has there been a trend over the last decade or so, or even 5 years or 3 years about how you communicate? Like previously, you'd get a little thing in the mail. Now you probably get a little thing in email, but it might go to spam. Then you like send a
Right.
text, this looks like spam. I won't do this. And it's like maybe we'll Facebook message you like, oh no, really? Wow. How have you
It
how do you
is
communicate?
a million years ago when I started in sports, when you kicked off a renewal campaign, the renewal campaign was, "Hey Chris, you got this big thing in the mail," and it was like, "It's time to renew your season tickets," and it was your pricing and your invoice and all this stuff. So when we were building our budgets a million years ago, I had a big old line item in there for specifically mailing stuff out. Now you go, okay, well, you get a ton of those back. It doesn't really make sense. It's really expensive, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, now we're all digital, right? So now you get an email from us, hey, Chris, log on. It's time to renew. So you're logging into your online account manager and everything's there. And then you call and you talk to your account manager or whatever, right? It's tough because there is something nostalgic and exciting about opening something in the mail. So we have very strategically tried to create moments where we are still sending stuff like you're going to get something from us in the mail. This last year, we sent basketballs to all of our season ticket members because we had won Western Conference. And so we sent them these really cool balls. Awesome. We had, I don't know how many that showed up, the stand broke or whatever, right? So you're fixing that stuff. You go, okay, like it's great, but now there's a whole other side to that. Our communication changes all the time. Like I encourage the reps when we're talking to people. Like if you're one of my accounts and we're chatting and you're like, oh yeah, text is the easiest way to get hold of me. We don't really text, right? That's not like you're not logging onto your computer and texting somebody. At least we're not. There are teams that do that. So you go, okay, there's a fine line between being like overly over communicating or being like too easy. Like they don't need to give out their personal cell phone numbers by any means, but there are some accounts they do text with. You go, okay, well, that's part of it. That's your how you're engaging with that season ticket member. But they send emails. They're specific a lot of times with that. We will send out like a generic email to everybody, and then the reps will then go back and be like, "Hey, Chris wanted to make sure you saw this." So you don't want to over email, which is always tough because sometimes that's the best way to get in front of people. But we are finding other ways to get in front of them, right? Is it through the app? Is it mail? Are we sending something in the mail? If it's something really pertinent to your account, we're probably going to mail you something because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we've tried every avenue to get ahead of it. But a lot of phone calls, a lot of face to face. We invite them to come to different events so we can see them in person and chat. So it's there's usually a mix of how we're getting in front of people because
And
you
then
just
with
never.
the cost of living and the pricing of sport and life in general, broadly speaking, have you found in terms of like people like in their brain going, no, this is non-negotiable. I'm going to renew this membership because I love this. But then also then you want to make them feel special by sending them something to say you've made the commitment and it's a big financial
Yeah.
commitment. You make you feel special. Are you seeing any trends around sport and that, or are you seeing like cost of living? We understand, you have to not renew this year,
I
completely acceptable.
I think more than anything, it's customizable, right? Like if you think about it, think about how many different ways you customize things in your life right now, right? Like 10 years ago, you bought the cable, you subscribed to cable, right? Whatever your cable provider is, and you got all the channels. That was it. That was what you did. Now you go, oh, I only get Disney and I get Hulu and then I get Paramount on the side or whatever, right? So the way that we have grown so accustomed to customizing every part of our like day to day, I think that I've seen that translate more into sports now than 10, 15 years ago. So instead of just saying every member gets this blank, right? Like everyone gets the same thing. There is, I think, more of a how are you making somebody feel special or valued based on what you're giving them access to versus another account. So not everybody gets invited to everything, but hopefully, if we're doing our job right, you've been invited. Everyone has been invited to something that's specific to them, where you feel like, oh my gosh, like Danielle invited me because this is specifically something that she knew I was going to like, versus, hey, Chris, I invited you to that one thing and you didn't come, but that was your member benefit. So sorry. Like
Yeah.
it now is more intentional that way. So I think it's presented a really interesting conversation around how do we take the same amount of money we're spending on one giant event and spread it out over multiple smaller events so that we are inviting people to things that are intentional for them. It's fun, it's challenging. I think it's provided another level of creativity to our staff to get, maybe a little bit more like, hey, just coming to the arena for something isn't maybe checking all the boxes for everybody. So how do you find something that is?
Yeah, no, for sure. Basketball as a grassroots sport's still very strong in the US. It's exploding here in Australia in terms of there's court shortages, etc., like that. Is basketball still very strong in grassroots, or is it getting some competition from other sports?
I mean, I feel like there's tons of growth anyways, right? Like soccer, I feel like is growing a ton. We're seeing a lot of growth in rugby here in the States, which obviously you guys are on the forefront of there, but more of that, which I think is kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, you still have a stronghold with the NBA, with American football, and of course, baseball is always, and then now hockey. Actually, I feel like the hockey NHL had just a really fantastic year. They did the Four Nations hockey tournament, which I felt like was really well done, and I think gave them a lot of really good eyes on people being like, oh wow, I hadn't watched hockey in a while. So NBA is still very strong. Basketball.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on to you now as a second, as opposed to Dallas Mavericks and sport and NBA, etc. Now, a question I ask my guests is your favorite all-time sporting moment. Have you got one, Danielle?
I do. I started in sports with the Oklahoma City Thunder a long time ago, and one of my favorite moments was being on. I had gone down to take care of one of the guests on the courtside for something, and so I was on the floor when we won the last game of Western Conference to go to the finals. And it was the first time that the Oklahoma City Thunder had been in the finals. And growing up in Oklahoma City, to be part of that finals run, again, this was the last time when they didn't actually when we lost in Miami. But was just like one of those moments where you just couldn't help but like tear up just a little bit. Like it was your city. It was just like lightning in a bottle, right? In every sense of the word. And so it was very cool to be there for that and be part of something that was just like insane for Oklahoma City.
Can you remember the starting five back then?
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. I think he was actually sixth man. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook,
I reckon. Yeah.
Thabo Cephalosha, Serge Ibaka, and Nick Collison.
Yeah. Then and look at them now. They're the champions, but I don't think anyone's there.
No, very different team. A very young, very different team. My parents are still in Oklahoma City, so I got plenty of pictures, and obviously I still have some really incredible friends with the organization there, and couldn't be happier for the city and the fact that they got to hoist the trophy downtown Oklahoma City was pretty cool.
Yep, and your scoreboard moment, which is a moment in your life which is very vivid and very, it can feel like yesterday and might even be yesterday, but something which you remember that has changed your life, and it's a moment that you recall quite easily.
So I have, like I said, I've been in sports for 16, 17 years now. I had an incredible run with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was there for 5 seasons. And my scoreboard moment, I will tell you very vividly. I remember I had bought a house downtown Oklahoma City, and I had gotten a written offer from the New Jersey Devils to move out to New Jersey, to switch to the NHL to take on their service department there. And I remember we had put like a big hammock up in the backyard, and I was laying in the hammock in the backyard. And I'm like, am I about to sell my house and move to New Jersey and just uproot everything I'd worked so hard to be very comfortable doing? And it was the best decision I ever made. It was also probably one of the scariest. I promised I would spend at least 1 year in Jersey before I completely freaked out and moved back to Oklahoma City, begging for my job back at the Thunder. And I ended up doing 3 years in Jersey. It was, I very graciously say I got my butt kicked out there for 3 years. It was the most challenging time of my career so far. But I learned the most about myself, about how I wanted to lead my team, about what I thought was important from a leadership standpoint, and had a great time doing it. Met some really incredible people, and luckily my very cute boyfriend at the time didn't break up with me and proposed and moved out, and we got married in Jersey. So it worked out. It worked out okay. But
thank you for sharing that moment. Danielle, you did mention about sponsorship before, and we talked a little bit about sponsorship, but here at Scoreboard, we have our own sponsor, and that is Swyftx. Swyftx is a cryptocurrency platform based here in Brisbane, in Australia, that has over 1.1 million users across Australia and New Zealand. And as part of that sponsorship, they're also powering a new segment called the Bucket List, because where can crypto take you? And that's their new TVC, a new campaign that they've got going on at the moment. So the question is, the Bucket List is a sporting event that you haven't attended thus far that would love to attend. Danielle, what is your bucket list?
The Masters. I know you and I chatted a little bit about it. I was like, I don't know what that translates.
This is number 4, I think, in the Masters. Yeah, it might have been. Might have been the Rory effect.
Probably. I grew up playing golf. Grew up on a golf course. Grew up playing with my dad. That was something my dad and I always did together. And now my dad and my husband play together, which I think is just like makes my heart happy. We have little ones that have very dangerous golf clubs now, so that's a whole other thing. But the Masters is definitely on my list of just once in a lifetime, prestigious, like incredible, right? But yeah, it would be the Masters golf tournament. I will be there. Now the challenge is going to be, who do I take, my dad or my husband? Because that's going to be tough if they only give me 2 tickets. I'm going to have a rough one with that. But
I reckon the challenge also would be about how you position it. Are you going to sit at a hole? Are you going to follow a player? What are you going to do?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I've got a couple favorites. I would potentially, depending on if my favorite players were playing, I might follow a player around. Yeah, I think I might follow a player. I don't know. Posting up, you know, the fact that they literally, you go and you set your chair down at a hole and no one messes with your chair for like the whole time is such a wild concept. But I don't know. That would be tough.
That'd be tough. It's a good problem to have if you're at the Masters. Don't worry. It's all good. You've got your bucket list there, right? So a couple more questions. If you had to choose one subscription service, Netflix or Spotify?
Netflix. Currently watching Home Improvement with Tim Allen, like from the 90s.
Yeah, that's my era.
Yeah, that like on repeat. It's like good, wholesome television. It's just like nice background.
The neighbour's name with a hat over the fence?
Wilson.
Wilson. There you go.
Wilson. Yeah.
Okay, so Netflix over Spotify. You've got the option to go for a long lunch with your friends or a long run.
Oh, lunch. It's 102 here today, Fahrenheit. I think that's like 30 something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too hot. You're in a jumper and we're like, I have like extra air on here in the office, so it's too much here.
And coffee or tea?
Coffee.
And what about the coffee in Australia?
Okay, thank you for asking. Best coffee I've ever had. And by the way, extremely frustrating because now we're back in the States and the coffee here is terrible. And I didn't know it was bad until we went and I had long blacks in Australia, and now you've earned me on coffee. So we'll be back. We did not bring home enough coffee.
That you remember? Was there a coffee shop you're like, this, I just have to write this down?
We went to one in Bondi Beach called Jack's. It was really great. It's also our son's name, so it was like a super
the meaning connection, yeah?
Yeah. But we brought back lots of coffee and a whole entire suitcase of Tim Tams, which are not available in the States.
Right.
So okay. I've been bribing people.
You like the Tim Tam? Did you do Vegemite at all?
No, I didn't. I should have. I missed an opportunity. I should have done it. But the best random thing, we were on the flight home and one of the stewardesses was handing out like individually wrapped Tim Tams. It was like, oh, have you Tim Tam extremed? And I was like, no. And so she told me, you bite off the corner, like on each end, and you put it in the coffee, and you suck the coffee through the Tim Tam.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. No, there you go.
Ruined everything for me. So we have, I think we bought like 60 boxes of Tim Tams back.
60 boxes? Get out of town.
Like literally an entire suitcase. I was really worried that we were going to get stopped in customs.
I was going to say,
do I have stash?
Excuse me, what's your stash? Tim Tams.
Yeah. So they didn't stop us.
Right.
I mean, don't get me in trouble with customs, but we brought back a lot of Tim Tams.
And you do, what do you, sort of little morning tea and maybe after dinner? Little Tim Tams?
We keep them in the freezer, and we've been bribing the children with them. That's their dessert, which has worked out pretty well.
Dessert.
And then we have a wonderful Ben Hunt who works here for the Mavs, is Australian, played basketball, and ended up here in the States. And so I brought him a few bags of Tim Tams back because, you know, why not? But
yeah,
we loved it. Australia was incredible.
One final question on you. Favorite travel destination? Come on,
Ooh,
throw it.
Turks and Caicos. I don't. That's probably super far for you guys. But the beach. We didn't get enough beach time in Australia. We spent like maybe a day on the beach. It was a little chilly, but we are a beach family, so
Awesome.
anytime we can get in the sand.
Okay, now also we're sitting here in 2025, middle of 2025. There's let's call it 15-year-old boys and girls out there that love sport. They want to get involved in sport, whether it's high performance, and whether it's athletes, or whether it's off the court and doing something what you're doing. What's some advice that you can give them, I suppose, to stay in sport?
I would tell them one, I think any kind of team sport participation is huge. I think you learn a tremendous amount about yourself as a person, as a leader, as sometimes not a leader, like how to just be part of the team. So I know we've got our kids in team sports. I think it's just good for everybody for like mental well-being and health. But as far as somebody wanting to work in sports like I am now, I would tell them extracurriculars are important. This is not a 9 to 5. I think that's always kind of an eye opener for people when they start in sports that we do not work 40-hour work weeks ever. So I always tell people, when you're applying and you're trying to get your foot in the door, it's not just that you have a degree in sports, it's all of the other extracurricular stuff that you did that really proved that you had more in you than just, an 18-hour workload in school or whatever, right? So I always tell people stay involved and, understand there's a lot of positions. People go, I want to do marketing. You go, what do you want to do in marketing? They go, I don't know. You go, well, there's a lot of parts to that. So, I don't know what I would do other than sports at this point. I love it. It's the most incredible thing. I think we get to be part of so many really amazing memories for people. And the fact that we get paid to do it is like just a mind blowing kind of thought process. So I love it. I encourage people to do it. I think the most fun you can get. Like, I don't think people that are like, in a bank are probably having quite as much fun as I am on a game night, but I love what I do and we have a fun time.
Danielle Mansell, Vice President, Service and Fan Experience at the Dallas Mavericks. It's been a pleasure having a chat to you today on Scoreboard, and congratulations on your success in terms of your team that you've built out and the trip recently to Australia, and all the best for the coming season. We'll watch with progress and support where we can.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.